The Death Ruins are located to the northwest of the fallen battlefield, a considerable distance away from where Chen and the others were. Therefore, once they made up their minds, there was no hesitation. They set off immediately. Due to the urgency, they hurried the entire way. Even though the spirit-seeking compass detected numerous ruins along the way and even seemed to uncover traces of a second-grade ruin, Chen remained resolute, not letting himself be distracted. All of his focus was solely on the Death Ruins. To be precise, his attention was on the information about battle formation masters within the Death Ruins. In today's vast world, the number of battle formation masters is even rarer than spiritual array masters, so any information related to them is extremely valuable. Anyone who has the opportunity to become a battle formation master would never miss such an opportunity. This is likely the same thought that the two battle geniuses from Xiantian Palace and Divine Hall share. Otherwise, they wouldn't have rushed over so urgently. Chen, holding the same mindset, pushed forward as quickly as possible toward the Death Ruins, which were now gradually gaining attention from more and more people. However, despite their efforts to hurry, by the time they reached the northwestern region, it was already the evening of the second day. In the northwestern region, as Chen and his group entered, it seemed like the very air grew darker. However, the presence of people here was far stronger than in any place they passed on the way. From all directions in the sky, groups of various sizes of people and forces could be seen racing past, heading swiftly toward the depths of the northwest. Clearly, these groups were all headed for the so-called Death Ruins. Though everyone knew that the Death Ruins were a dangerous place, the rumors about the first-grade ruins were enough to make countless forces lose their minds with greed. After all, first-grade ruins are second only to the Earth's supreme treasure in terms of value, with divine arts, heavenly treasures, divine artifacts, and other priceless items left behind. It's hard to imagine any powerful individual below the Earth's supreme level who wouldn't be tempted. Chen and his group looked at the hustle and bustle of the northwest and couldn't help but frown. They hadn't expected the Death Ruins to stir up such a commotion. However, even though the situation seemed chaotic, Chen wasn't overly concerned. With their strong forces, 4 elite armies and 4 6th-grade supremes stationed, this lineup was already enough to rival top-tier forces that might mobilize their entire strength. With such power, in this turbulent time, they had the qualifications to stand toe-to-toe with the best. Chen gazed into the distance. Far off, the land seemed shrouded in darkness, an oppressive atmosphere hanging over it. But this did not frighten Chen. Instead, he smiled faintly. Let's go. How could the Great Luo Heaven Domain miss such a grand event? Let's see just how many powerful forces are heading toward the Death Ruins. As soon as he finished speaking, he swiftly moved out, followed by the 9 Nether, Mountain-Splitting King, and the 4 elite armies, all of them turning into a sea of light and shadow as they surged forward. As they moved, their vast presence caused the surrounding forces to pause and take notice, quickly retreating to avoid them. Once Chen and his group had passed, hushed whispers began to spread through the air. Looks like those are people from the Great Luo Heaven Domain. The leader, could it be Chen? I didn't expect him to come here as well. I heard there's information about battle formation masters in the Death Ruins. Since Chen can control battle will, he wouldn't miss out on such an opportunity. Hey, the 2 battle will geniuses from Xiantian Palace and Divine Hall are already here. They were searching for Chen before, and now it looks like he's come here on his own. I've witnessed many battles between powerful individuals, but this is my first time seeing a duel between battle will geniuses. This should be quite a spectacle. Looks like this trip to the Death Ruins is going to be interesting. In the depths of the northwestern region, a blanket of darkness covered the land ahead. In this darkness, it felt as though even light was being devoured. At this moment, on the outskirts of the dark ruins, the atmosphere was lively to the extreme. Countless beams of light surged from the distant horizon, eventually falling onto the land below. Some of the more powerful factions occupied the closest positions to the Death Ruins. Should anything happen, they could seize the opportunity at any time. Meanwhile, weaker factions could only retreat, unwilling to compete for these advantageous positions. In a place like this, it was clear that the stronger one's power, the better the treatment one would receive. The forces from all directions were surveying the area, evaluating the strength of other factions in order to determine how many competitors they would face in this venture. The majority of the glances were aimed at the several peaks at the front of the land, their eyes filled with caution. The peaks were occupied by some of the most renowned top factions from the northern domain. Their armies were strong and well-equipped, their formations terrifying to behold. Among them, the most noticeable was a peak in the north. At the summit, only a few figures stood, but each of them exuded an overwhelming wave of spiritual energy. Even from a great distance, the powerful pressure of their spiritual power could be clearly felt. However, these figures were clearly not the center of attention. In front of them sat a woman in a white dress on a wheelchair. Her long black hair cascaded down, and her skin was as pale as snow. Her face was delicate, with a refined beauty, and there was an aura of fragility about her, one that made people instinctively want to embrace her gently. Despite the fact that the woman in white gave off a somewhat fragile impression, no one dared to underestimate her. Everyone knew that this was Zhang Tailu Li, the hidden genius of the Divine Hall, known for her incredible battle talent. Though many in the Northern Domain were only familiar with the rising star Feng Yi from the younger generation of the Divine Hall, only those with true capability understood that, when it came to potential, Zhang Tailu Li might even surpass him. While she may not have the same innate talent for cultivation as Feng Yi, her battle talent far exceeded his. The Lord of the Divine Hall had once said that Zhang Tailu Li was destined to become a true battle formation master, solidifying her extraordinary status within the Divine Hall. At that moment, this hidden genius of the Divine Hall seemed unaware of the many eyes upon her. Her calm, water-like gaze was fixed on the death ruin shrouded in darkness in the distance. Her eyes flickered, as if she were sensing something. Behind her, several figures stood, many of whom were familiar faces to Mu Chen. Feng Yi was there, as well as Su Ba, the Wolf Lord, and the Bear Lord. Their formation was equally remarkable. Suddenly, a figure shot up from the base of the mountain, whispering something to Feng Yi. His expression immediately darkened, and he turned to the others, saying, "People from the great Luo Heaven Domain are here, and Mu Chen is among them." Upon hearing Mu Chen's name, Su Ba and the others' faces grew grim. The woman in white remained unmoved, her beautiful eyes still calm. After a moment, she sighed softly and spoke in a gentle voice, "Little Feng, right now, the ruins are the priority. Besides, someone will test their strength for us." Upon hearing this, Feng Yi's expression shifted. He glanced at a distant peak and nodded lightly. Whoosh! Just as their conversation ended, a massive wind began to stir from behind, the sound of it roaring through the air. The countless forces turned in unison, and soon they saw a large army, like a torrential downpour, sweeping toward them. Everyone's face changed in shock. Those are forces from the great Luo Heaven Domain. Amidst the many gasps, the vast army appeared in the sky, and Mu Chen, Nine Nether, Mountain-Splitting King, and others revealed themselves. Mu Chen's gaze swept across the land, feeling the overwhelming spiritual energy fluctuations. His eyes narrowed slightly. This ruin had indeed attracted many powerful factions. Let's head there. Soon, Mu Chen's gaze shifted toward the best positions at the front. Although that area was already crowded with powerful factions, with the status of the Great Luo Heaven Domain and the Northern Domain, they were not afraid of anyone. Mountain-Splitting King and the others nodded proudly, then waved their hands. However, just as Mu Chen and the others were about to land under the gaze of countless eyes, a somewhat harsh chuckle suddenly rang through the air, reverberating across the heavens and earth. "Everyone, this place isn't one that can be entered at will." The Mountain-Splitting King and the others' faces turned cold, their eyes shifting sharply to a distant peak. There, powerful spiritual energy surged, and several figures emanating immense spiritual pressure stood proudly. Those were the forces of Xiantian Palace. At the forefront of the group, a man dressed in black, his long hair loose and bloodshot eyes, smiled as he looked at the emotionless Mu Chen. "I am Xiaotian of Xiantian Palace." His blood-red tongue licked his lips before he tilted his head and flashed a chilling smile at Mu Chen. "I'd like to borrow your head for a while." "I am Xiaotian of Xiantian Palace." "I'd like to borrow your head for a while." As the laugh of the black-robed man echoed across the realm, the previously noisy area suddenly quieted. Countless pairs of eyes turned toward the front of the great Luo Heaven Domain forces, where a tall figure stood in midair, his handsome face calm and serene as water. The entire realm fell silent as all the major forces observed the scene. There was a clear look of interest in their eyes. They had all heard of Mu Chen's name by now. After his battle with Feng Yi, he had completely solidified his top position among the younger generation of the Northern Domain. At this point, no one would question his ability. However, as strong as Mu Chen was, the black-robed man who had spoken was also not an ordinary character. He was none other than the battle genius of Xiantian Palace, Xiaotian. Although Xiaotian's cultivation as a fourth-grade supreme might only be considered excellent among the younger generation of the Northern Domain, His identity as a battle-will genius made him someone not to be underestimated. Everyone knew that a battle-will genius like Xiao Tian, once in control of an elite army, could unleash terrifying power. Under the gazes of countless eyes, Mu Qin's black eyes fixed on the black-robed Xiao Tian. His face was as calm as an ancient well, showing no anger despite the latter's provocative words. Where did this fool come from, thinking he has the right to bluster here? Do you believe I could slap him dead with one hand? A cold and sinister voice rang out, and Blood Eagle King, with a gloomy expression, glared at Xiao Tian. The killing intent in his eyes surged. Xiao Tian had dared to provoke Mu Qin in front of them, and his arrogance was clearly displeasing to Blood Eagle King. Bluster? Do you think Xiantian Palace has no one? From behind Xiao Tian, a cold laugh echoed. A figure stepped forward, and Mu Qin was slightly taken aback upon recognizing him. It was Lu Yin, the one Mu Qin had forced to self-destruct his body in the Dragon Phoenix Heaven. The moment Lu Yin appeared, a look of intense hatred shot toward Mu Qin. So it's Lu Yin, the young lord of the hall. It seems Lord Lu is quite generous, having quickly helped you refine a new body. Mu Qin smiled slightly at Lu Yin. Lu Yin's face turned a shade of deep iron, his expression twisted with hatred, as though he wished to grind Mu Qin's bones to dust. His reputation had been thoroughly buried by Mu Qin in the Dragon Phoenix Heaven, and his body had been destroyed. If it weren't for his father paying a tremendous price, he might still be unable to restore his body. Mu Qin, don't be so arrogant with your words. Today, if your great Luo Heaven Domain wishes to get involved in this death ruins, you'll first have to ask Xiantian Palace if we agree. Lu Yin said coldly. As Lu Yin finished speaking, four towering figures appeared beside him. Their bodies were extraordinarily muscular, resembling iron towers. Standing next to Lu Yin, their shadows completely enveloped him. Though their towering forms were eye-catching, what made the powerful experts in the area uneasy was the overwhelming spiritual pressure emanating from them. Such spiritual pressure could only belong to those of the 6th grade supreme level. So these are the 7 heavenly generals of Xiantian Palace. The mountain-splitting king sneered as he looked at the 4 towering figures, his gaze disdainful. What? What big talk? Do you really think you're invincible just because you're the mountain-splitting king? I'd like to see if you actually have the ability to back up those words. A towering figure, the Iron Tower general standing beside Lu Yin, cast a murderous gaze toward the mountain-splitting king, his voice cold and menacing. Then come and try. The mountain-splitting king laughed loudly. His foot slammed down, and immediately, a vast wave of spiritual power surged out like a storm. The very sky seemed to darken as countless strong individuals subtly changed their expressions, sensing the immense pressure. At that moment, the mountain-splitting king was at the peak of the 6th grade supreme realm. The Iron Tower general from Xiantian Palace also noticed the overwhelming spiritual pressure erupting from the mountain-splitting king's body. His expression shifted slightly, but there was no fear in his eyes. He moved as if to leap into action, but suddenly, Lu Yin extended his hand to stop him. Lu Yin's cold gaze turned toward Mu Qin, a mocking smile appearing on his face. Mu Qin, you should know what situation we're in right now. If a battle breaks out, I'm afraid you won't be far from being eliminated. Mu Qin narrowed his eyes. Normally, if they encountered a force like Xiantian Palace, they would fight without hesitation. But now is different. With so many powerful forces gathered here, and countless eyes watching, even the top-tier forces like the Great Luo Heaven Domain couldn't afford to show weakness. If they did, they could quickly attract the wolves to their door. Therefore, they couldn't afford to fight Xiantian Palace directly. Lu Yin, I think we can work together and expel this Great Luo Heaven Domain first. A sudden soft laugh interrupted Mu Qin's thoughts. The voices of various forces shifted, and their gazes turned toward another peak, where the Divine Hall's forces were stationed. On that peak stood Fang Yi, wearing a smile that seemed neither genuine nor mocking, looking directly at Mu Qin. The sight caused many forces to pause. Could it be that the Divine Hall was truly joining forces with Xiantian Palace to deal with the Great Luo Heaven Domain? If this news spread, it would surely cause a huge stir. Mu Qin's cold gaze shifted toward Fang Yi's peak, and he spoke indifferently. A dog with no home dares to make noise? Last time, you were chased for miles. Do you still not think that was enough? Fang Yi and Su Ba's eyes both narrowed, their gazes icy as they glared at Mu Qin. If you really want to join forces, come at me. But believe me, even if the Great Luo Heaven Domain falls here today, you'll be buried right alongside us. Mu Qin's eyes suddenly filled with a fierce light, his voice sharp and full of malice. Fang Yi's pupils contracted slightly as he met Mu Qin's wolf-like gaze. With the current strength of the Great Luo Heaven Domain, if they truly went all out, the cost would be enormous. This friend, the Divine Hall currently has no intention of opposing you. Past grievances can be settled later. For now, you should focus on resolving things with Xiantian Palace. A soft voice suddenly rang out, dispelling the tense atmosphere with its gentleness. Mu Chen's gaze shifted toward the source of the voice, and there he saw a woman in white sitting in a wheelchair. Her delicate appearance caused him to pause for a moment, but his gaze quickly shifted as he realized her identity. This woman was likely the battle-will genius from the Divine Hall. However, it was clear that she didn't want to start a fight with the Great Luo Heaven Domain just yet, and was instead letting Xiantian Palace take the lead. In a way, this allowed her to watch the fight from the sidelines, waiting for a good opportunity. Although she appeared weak and fragile, Mu Chen could tell she was no easy opponent. Mu Chen, stop pretending to be tough in front of me. If you really dare to start a battle here with Xiantian Palace, then the inheritance related to battle formation masters and the death ruins might no longer be yours to claim, Lu Yin sneered. What do you want? Mu Chen smiled faintly and asked. Lu Yin's gaze turned to Xiao Tian, who grinned widely, veins crawling up in his eyes. With a neurotic smile, he looked at Mu Chen and said, I heard you've condensed the battle-will spirit. Huh? He tilted his head and looked at Mu Chen. If you want to take a share of the death ruins, but don't want to directly fight Xiantian Palace, then it's simple. Let me see if you're even qualified to do so. If you think you're qualified, then come and try. Mu Chen's black eyes looked coldly at Xiao Tian, a chilling smile forming at the corner of his lips. Clearly, he wasn't surprised by Xiao Tian's words. However, the Xiantian Palace wanted to vent its frustration by defeating him. But at this moment, did he not also wish to kill the chicken to warn the monkey? Mu Chen could naturally see that the surrounding wolves and tigers were watching closely. If he didn't show some strength now, he might not be able to intimidate those who had ill intentions. So, in a sense, Xiao Tian's actions were actually in line with what Mu Chen had in mind. Hee, when I twist your head off your neck, make sure you're still wearing that smile on your face, Xiao Tian said with a wide grin, though anyone could tell from his voice that it was mixed with a brutal killing intent. Mu Chen looked at Xiao Tian with calm eyes. Xiao Tian's grin gradually faded under his gaze. His bloodshot eyes, like a venomous snake, locked onto Mu Chen. The two exchanged glares, and the killing intent between them made the temperature in the air drop. Countless forces in the area had excited glints in their eyes because it was clear that these two battle-intent geniuses from the Great Luo Heaven Domain and the Xiantian Palace were about to take action. And the clash between these battle-intent geniuses would certainly be grander than that of ordinary warriors of the same level. I'll wipe out your army completely. Xiao Tian laughed coldly, his eyes suddenly flashing with a chilling light. He raised his palm, and then swung it down violently, his sinister voice suddenly echoing through the heavens and earth. Xiantian Division, come out. Boom. The moment Xiao Tian's shout fell, the entire space trembled. Then, forces from all directions were shocked to see terrifying battle intent surge into the sky from the massive mountain behind Xiao Tian. At this moment, the heavens and earth changed color, and the air was filled with a heavy aura of bloodshed, showing that this army had truly experienced life and death battles. What was even more shocking was that the Xiantian Division, when roughly counted, numbered about 15,000 soldiers. Such a scale was beyond even the Mountain-Splitting King's Mountain-Splitting Legion. That's the Xiantian Division of the Xiantian Palace. It's an elite army built by the Xiantian Palace over many years. It's been under Xiao Tian's command for these years. Mountain-Splitting King said in a deep voice. For the first time, there was a hint of concern in his eyes as he looked at Mu Chen. He knew Mu Chen's expertise in battle intent, but Xiao Tian before him was also a battle intent genius who had even condensed his own battle intent spirit. On top of that, the sheer size of his army gave him an absolute advantage, making him a formidable opponent for Mu Chen. Mu Chen nodded slightly, but said nothing further. He waved his sleeve, and the Nine Nethers guard behind him erupted with a thunderous shout, showing no intention of retreating. Boom. The vast Nine Nether battle intent spread out like an ocean. Its overwhelming power made the faces of many strong warriors turn grave. However, it was obvious that, because of the difference in scale, the battle intent of the Nine Nethers guard was far weaker compared to the Xiantian Division. Haha. Are you really planning to fight my Xiantian Division with just your 5,000 Nine Nethers guard? How laughable. Xiao Tian mocked as he looked at the Nine Nethers guard behind Mu Chen. The outcome of such a battle was largely determined by the strength of both armies. And the strength of an army depended on the quality and number of its soldiers. The Xiantian division had been nurtured by the Xiantian palace over the years, consuming vast resources. On the other hand, the Nine Nethers Guard, with its weaker foundation, was no match for the Xiantian division in terms of scale. If they clashed, it would undoubtedly be a crushing defeat for Mu Chen. Boom. Xiao Tian, known for his cruel and stubborn nature, did not give Mu Chen any chance as he mocked him. He suddenly formed hand seals, and immediately, immense battle intent rose from behind him. It transformed into thousands of light rainbows, overwhelming Mu Chen with a torrent of power. The light rainbow of battle intent swept across the space, causing it to tremble. The fluctuations within were so powerful that even a 6th grade Supreme would be gravely concerned. Though Xiao Tian was only a 4th grade Supreme, his mastery over the battle intent of the Xiantian division made even 6th grade Supremes wary of him. Mu Chen gazed at the incoming attack, his brows furrowing slightly. He changed his hand seals, and the vast ocean of battle intent behind him surged forward, condensing into a massive battle intent shield in front of him. Boom, boom, boom. Countless battle light rainbows slammed into the shield, and instantly, the once majestic shield began to weaken at an alarming rate. As the light screen shattered, the remaining battle intent light rainbow surged toward Mu Chen with the force of a victor. Chi! A cold gleam flashed in Mu Chen's black eyes, and instantly, a clear and resonant cry echoed across the heavens and earth. The enormous battle spirit materialized directly above the vast ocean of battle intent. Its wings, sharp as blades, swept outward, instantly smashing the violent battle intent light rainbow into countless glowing particles. Countless gazes in the world were drawn to the massive 9 Nether Sparrow battle spirit behind Mu Chen, their eyes wide with shock. Is that the battle spirit? It's truly powerful. The battle intent of the 9 Nethers Guards surged in an instant. No wonder it said that only an army that has forged its battle spirit can be considered a true army. The battle spirit is so formidable. Whispers rippled through the crowd. After all, armies capable of forming battle spirits were extremely rare, so witnessing it firsthand was an eye-opening experience. Haha, so this is the battle spirit you forged. Xiao Tian mocked as he looked at the massive 9 Nether battle spirit. A smirk spread across his face. If that's the case, let me show you something that will truly open your eyes today. With those words, Xiao Tian's enormous battle intent suddenly surged, gathering frantically. In an instant, the entire world was flooded with a tremendous battle intent. The massive mountain beneath their feet cracked open, large fissures forming as if a quake had struck. Everyone's gaze was fixed on the massive shadow that suddenly loomed behind Xiao Tian. The faces of all the powerful figures grew solemn and shocked. A colossal battle intent serpent, thousands of feet long, coiled in midair. As it hissed, even the space around it trembled, and its body was etched with glowing battle runes that emitted a terrifying aura. This battle intent serpent was far larger than Mu Chen's 9 Nether battle spirit, and in comparison, the overwhelming spiritual energy fluctuation between them was also noticeably different. Mu Chen truly doesn't know his limits. His 9 Nethers Guard numbers only 5,000, while Xiao Tian's army is 3 times that size. The battle spirit they forged is like heaven and earth apart. Fang Yi sneered as he observed the battle intents from the peak where the Divine Hall's people stood. In front of him, Zhan Tailu Li's clear eyes watched the scene, her gaze narrowing slightly. Her eyes were fixed on the battle spirit forged by Mu Chen, surprise evident in her expression. Mu Chen's battle spirit has over 4,000 battle runes, while Xiao Tian's has over 6,000, Zhan Tailu Li muttered to herself. Fang Yi and the others were stunned by her words, then laughed. It looks like Mu Chen is bound to lose. Though they didn't fully understand what the battle runes meant, it was clear from Zhan Tailu Li's expression that the number of battle runes was an important factor in strength. Zhan Tailu Li didn't respond to them. Instead, she continued to watch Mu Chen with a look of astonishment. The power of battle intent was mysterious and unfamiliar to most people. Even many generals who could barely control battle intent themselves didn't have a deep understanding of it. Based on Zhan Tailu Li's assumptions, even Mu Chen and Xiao Tian probably didn't fully grasp the significance of the battle runes. However, Zhan Tailu Li had learned some details about battle intent from an ancient book. She knew that even among battle spirits, there were differences in strength, and these differences were determined by the number of battle runes etched into the battle spirit's body. These runes were closely tied to the army's battle intent. Essentially, the more powerful the army's battle intent, the more battle runes its battle spirit would bear. At first glance, Mu Chen's battle spirit seemed to have fewer runes than Xiao Tian's. However, the scale of Xiao Tian's army was 3 times the size of Mu Chen's. This meant that if both armies were of equal size and battle intent strength, Mu Chen would have already overwhelmed Xiao Tian. This revealed that Mu Chen's understanding of battle intent was far from ordinary. After all, even with only 5,009 Nether's guards, Mu Chen had managed to forge a battle spirit with over 4,000 battle runes. This was something Zhang Tailuli herself would find quite difficult to do. Haha, Mu Chen, do you now realize the gap between us? Even when it comes to the battle spirit, you are far inferior to me. Behind Xiao Tian, the giant python battle spirit coiled up as he laughed, looking at Mu Chen. In his perception, the battle spirit Mu Chen had condensed was nowhere near as powerful as his own, making the outcome of this battle already very clear. Mu Chen frowned slightly as he gazed at the giant python battle spirit behind Xiao Tian, but his expression remained calm, with no significant change. That annoying look in your eyes, die. Xiao Tian, seeing Mu Chen's calm eyes, suddenly felt a surge of murderous intent. What he wanted to see was Mu Chen's panicked expression, not his calm demeanor. With a furious shout, the giant python battle spirit behind him let out a loud roar, and the battle runes on its body suddenly erupted with bright light, spreading its battle intent. Boom! The giant python battle spirit opened its vicious mouth, releasing a massive battle intent snake breath over 1,000 feet long, melting the void and ruthlessly enveloping Mu Chen. Mu Chen quickly changed his seal, and the 9 Nether battle spirit let out a clear cry, its wings of cloud spreading like a shield, blocking the battle intent snake breath. Hiss! Hiss! The two forces collided with a sharp sound. As their battle intents clashed, the battle runes on the 9 Nether battle spirit's wings seemed to gradually dim. It was a sign that its battle intent was being absorbed. Although the giant python battle spirit also showed signs of its battle runes dimming, the process was clearly much slower than that of the 9 Nether battle spirit. At this rate, it wouldn't take long before the 9 Nether battle spirit would begin to fall into a disadvantage in this battle of battle intent. Many of the strong figures present noticed this and began to murmur, sensing that Mu Chen had encountered a significant obstacle this time. Behind Mu Chen, the 9 Nether and Mountain Splitting King furrowed their brows, their expressions filled with growing concern. However, amidst their tense observation, Mu Chen exhaled a puff of white mist, then turned his head and smiled slightly at the Blood Eagle King. That smile caused a tremor in the hearts of 9 Nether and the others. Blood Eagle King, may I borrow the Blood Eagle Guard? When the Blood Eagle King and the others heard Mu Chen's words, their hearts couldn't help but shake, and they exchanged surprised glances. Was Mu Chen intending to borrow the battle intent of the Blood Eagle Guard at this moment? But could he truly control the Blood Eagle Guard's battle intent, which was entirely different from that of the 9 Nether Guard, while also commanding the 9 Nether Guard? Though the Blood Eagle King and the others didn't have much understanding of battle intent, they knew that when two incompatible powers came into contact, a careless control could cause a backlash. While Mu Chen had indeed helped their army condense the battle spirit before, it had been done gradually, not like now, when he was attempting to control another army's battle intent after already activating the 9 Nether Guards. Alright, though uncertain, the Blood Eagle King made a decisive decision. With a wave of his hand, the Blood Eagle Guard appeared like a cloud of blood, hovering behind Mu Chen. Thank you. Mu Chen expressed his gratitude and, without further words, fixed his sharp gaze on the Blood Eagle Guard. Instantly, a mighty roar erupted from the Blood Eagle Guard, followed by a surge of overwhelming battle intent. Mu Chen's mind moved, and he sent a strand of his consciousness directly into the vast battle intent of the Blood Eagle Guard. Mu Chen actually wants to borrow the battle intent of the Blood Eagle Guard. As expected, Mu Chen's actions caused an uproar. Countless eyes filled with surprise and uncertainty turned toward him. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Mu Chen is really desperate. Fang Yi frowned, then sneered. He's not desperate. In front of him, Zhang Tailuli gently shook her head. She gazed at Mu Chen's figure with some astonishment in her eyes and said, "It's not impossible to control multiple battle intents simultaneously, but it requires an extremely strict level of control over battle intent. Can he really do that? Fang Yi said with an unpleasant expression. Zhang Tai Luli shook her head. I don't know. But Mu Chen is clearly a very calm person, so he likely wouldn't attempt something futile. Fang Yi's gaze was grim, yet he could no longer argue, for he had fought with Mu Chen and knew his character well. He never did anything without reason. It was rare for Mu Chen to act without purpose. However, getting Fang Yi to admit such a thing now seemed impossible. He would rather believe that Mu Chen was merely holding on. While he didn't expect Xiao Tian to directly deal with Mu Chen, he would be glad to see the latter's reputation tarnished. Mastering 2 types of battle intent. Truly arrogant, Xiao Tian said, his eyes cold as he watched the scene. His gaze flickered slightly. As a battle intent genius, he understood how audacious Mu Chen's actions were. Even he, if he wanted to master 2 types of battle intent, would need a long time to refine them. But looking at Mu Chen now, it was clear that he couldn't possibly have a high level of compatibility with the Blood Eagle Guard's battle intent. Despite his words, Xiao Tian's actions grew more ruthless. The giant python battle spirit launched a violent attack, and although the 9 nether battle spirit was being pushed back step by step under the assault, it had not yet been defeated. Countless eyes in the heavens were fixed on the clash between the 2 battle spirits, but more gazes shifted to the overwhelming battle intent emanating from the Blood Eagle Guard. The battle intent surged like a sea of blood. Everyone was waiting to see if Mu Chen could truly control 2 different battle intents. Boom. The violent clash of battle intent was like a storm stirring in the world, shaking the entire space with immense force. However, even amidst that tremor, Mu Chen remained unfazed. His eyes were half closed, as though he had shut out the external disturbance. His mind focused, guiding his will as it rapidly merged with the Blood Eagle Guard's battle intent. His eyes stayed closed for several breaths before slowly opening again, and deep within his gaze, a red light flickered. Boom. The moment Mu Chen opened his eyes, the blood-red battle intent of the Blood Eagle Guard erupted with a loud roar. Then, pillars of blood-colored battle intent shot up into the sky and converged in the heavens. Countless people gazed in shock at the scene, but their astonishment quickly turned into disbelief. They saw that where the blood-red light pillars met, a massive blood eagle spread its enormous wings. On the eagle's body, dazzling battle runes spread out, releasing a powerful battle intent. Caw! A sharp eagle cry echoed across the heavens and earth. All the surrounding forces stared at the giant blood eagle, their mouths agape in shock. After a long while, they finally gasped in amazement. Mu Chen had not only mastered the battle intent of the Blood Eagle Guard, but he had also summoned the battle spirit of the Blood Eagle Guard. Did this mean that Mu Chen could now control 2 battle intent spirits? This bastard! How is this possible? Fang Yi's face turned pale, his eyes deep with extreme seriousness. Every time he encountered Mu Chen, the latter seemed to grow stronger and more difficult to deal with. Did he even condense the Blood Eagle Guard's battle spirit? Zhang Tai Luli's beautiful eyes flashed with astonishment. She stared at the Blood Eagle battle spirit and softly murmured, "This Blood Eagle battle spirit has 3,000 battle runes on its body, which isn't as many as the 9 nether battle spirit. It seems Mu Chen's control over the Blood Eagle Guard's battle intent is not as strong as that of the 9 nether guard. However, with the help of 2 battle intent spirits, Mu Chen should be able to handle Xiao Tian." When the Blood Eagle battle spirit appeared, Xiao Tian's expression also changed. He glared at Mu Chen and sneered, "I didn't expect you to have such means." Mu Chen cast him a cold glance but didn't bother with his words. He changed his hand seals, and the Blood Eagle battle spirit suddenly let out a sharp cry. Its wings flapped, and it surged forward, appearing above Xiao Tian in the blink of an eye. With a mighty flap, countless blood feathers shot down, tearing the space apart with deep cracks. Damn it! Faced with the Blood Eagle battle spirit's assault, Xiao Tian's face darkened. He didn't dare hesitate. With a flick of his mind, the giant python battle spirit withdrew its attack. Its massive tail swept across, shattering the blood feathers. As the giant python battle spirit's offensive retracted, the 9 nether battle spirit immediately charged forward, locking onto the giant python battle spirit with the Blood Eagle battle spirit in tow. 3 battle spirits confronted each other. After a brief moment, Mu Chen and Xiao Tian's eyes flashed with coldness, and in the next instant, the 3 battle spirits shot out violently, clashing with each other, carrying an unparalleled battle will. This confrontation was not about flashy tricks, it was entirely a battle of the might of their battle wills. Previously, the giant python battle spirit was clearly stronger than the nine nether battle spirit. However, with the addition of the blood eagle battle spirit, the sharpness of the giant python battle spirit began to be suppressed, leading to a stalemate and exhaustion. On the side of Xiantian Palace, Lu Yin saw the situation, which had been in their favor, suddenly turned around by Mu Chen, and his face became extremely ugly. He hadn't expected that Mu Chen would still have such tactics in this perilous situation. That bastard! Lu Yin gritted his teeth, rage swelling within him, but there was nothing he could do. Boom! Boom! In the sky, the three battle spirits clashed frantically. Each time their battle wills collided, it caused the space to tremble. Finally, with one last tremendous blow, the three battle spirits were struck by the explosive battle wave, shattering into countless light spots in the stunned gaze of many onlookers. The battle wills of both sides seemed evenly matched. Impossible! Xiao Tian's eyes turned red as he watched this scene. Although this outcome could only be considered a tie, he found it extremely hard to accept. He commanded the elite troops of the Xiantian division, yet Mu Chen only had the nine Nether's guard in his hands, which was a force with weak foundations. Even with the addition of the Blood Eagle Guard, their numbers barely totaled 10,000, a scale still inferior to his Xiantian division. Yet, the result was completely unexpected. Such an army in your hands is a waste, Mu Chen said indifferently, looking at the red-eyed Xiao Tian. His calm tone caused a surge of blood in Xiao Tian's eyes. You're asking for death? Xiao Tian roared angrily, intending to once again call upon the Xiantian division to engage Mu Chen in a decisive battle. However, Lu Yan's figure appeared beside him, his face dark, and he stopped him. The mission of Xiantian Palace this time was given by his father to scout the death ruins. If they were to engage in a mutually destructive battle before entering the ruins, they would lose the ability to complete their mission. Lu Yin thought that he would only use Xiao Tian's strength to diminish Mu Chen's momentum before the ruins and damage his reputation, but he never intended for a full-scale war. After the death ruins, we will deal with him, Lu Yin said to Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian's face twisted in anger, his bloodshot eyes locked on Mu Chen, but in the end, he stormed off, shaking his sleeves. Mu Chen, however, remained calm and watched the scene. Once Xiao Tian retreated, his cold, sharp gaze swept across the field and landed on Fang Yi on a distant hill. His icy voice rang out. Is there anyone else who doubts the qualifications of my great Luo Heaven domain? A complete silence fell over the land. At this moment, no one dared to challenge Mu Chen's sharp aura. Even those 6th grade supremes hid their trepidation. This battle had already established Mu Chen's authority. Fang Yi's face darkened, but he didn't step forward to say anything. Mu Chen saw the silence and, without saying more, turned and prepared to return to his army. Boom. However, just as Mu Chen was about to turn around, an earth-shattering roar suddenly erupted from the sky. It was as if countless warriors were screaming in agony, and the murderous intent within the roar caused the very heavens and earth to darken. The sudden change shocked all the forces present, and they quickly looked up, their gazes fixated on the death ruin shrouded in darkness in the distance. The eerie roar came from there. Roar. The strange, anguished roar echoed from the depths of the dark death ruins, carrying an unimaginable pain. The despair in the voice sent shivers down the spines of countless powerful figures in the area. Moreover, beneath the roar, there was an endless series of howls, seemingly filled with a strange power that caused the entire world to darken further. A suffocating feeling began to spread. Outside the death ruins, countless strong warriors looked uncertainly at the dark distance. Though they hadn't entered the death ruins yet, they could already feel its terrifying presence. Mu Chen's gaze also suddenly froze at that moment. He stared at the death ruins. The peculiar power contained within the roar was not unfamiliar to him, as it was the power of battle will. Indeed, the death ruins had some connection to the battle formation masters. A fiery light surged from Mu Chen's eyes as he intently watched the death ruins. It seemed that the commotion within the ruins had been triggered by the battle will from their previous fight, and it had awakened something within the death ruins. Mu Chen's eyes flickered, then he retreated back into the great Luo Heaven domain army. He spoke softly. It seems that the death ruins are indeed connected to the battle formation masters. I sense fluctuations of battle will. 9 Nether, the mountain-splitting king, and the others all looked solemn. The death ruins before them always felt strange, and now that it was confirmed to be related to the battle formation masters, there was surely great danger inside. It seemed they would need to be extra cautious during this mission. When do we move? Nine Nether asked in a low voice. Let's wait for now. Mu Chen shook his head lightly. Although it was now certain that the death ruins were connected to the battle formation masters, he had become more composed. In such a perilous situation, those who stand out may not have a good end. Nine Nether and the others understood this well and nodded in agreement. The army then began descending from a mountain at the forefront, keeping a vigilant watch on the death ruins, now shrouded in darkness. As the great Luo Heaven Domain forces descended, the eerie roars from within the death ruins gradually faded, until they completely disappeared. After the death ruins returned to silence, forces from all sides began to stir. The earlier disturbances within the ruins proved its exceptional nature. This ruin was likely a first-grade ruins. If they could enter first, they could harvest large amounts of fallen source pills. The quantity that could be refined from a first-grade ruins was astounding. Moreover, inside the ruins, there were certainly numerous divine artifacts and powerful techniques left behind by ancient experts, items that would make anyone covetous. His calm tone caused a surge of blood in Xiao Tian's eyes. You're asking for death. Xiao Tian roared angrily, intending to once again call upon the Xintian division to engage Mu Chen in a decisive battle. However, Lu Yan's figure appeared beside him, his face dark, and he stopped him. The mission of Xintian Palace this time was given by his father to scout the death ruins. If they were to engage in a mutually destructive battle before entering the ruins, they would lose the ability to complete their mission. Lu Yan thought that he would only use Xiao Tian's strength to diminish Mu Chen's momentum before the ruins and damage his reputation, but he never intended for a full-scale war. After the death ruins, we will deal with him, Lu Yan said to Xiao Tian. Xiao Tian's face twisted in anger, his bloodshot eyes locked on Mu Chen, but in the end, he stormed off, shaking his sleeves. Mu Chen, however, remained calm and watched the scene. Once Xiao Tian retreated, his cold, sharp gaze swept across the field and landed on Fang Yi on a distant hill. His icy voice rang out. Is there anyone else who doubts the qualifications of my great Luo Heaven Domain? A complete silence fell over the land. At this moment, no one dared to challenge Mu Chen's sharp aura. Even those sixth-grade supremes hid their trepidation. This battle had already established Mu Chen's authority. Fang Yi's face darkened, but he didn't step forward to say anything. Mu Chen saw the silence, and, without saying more, turned and prepared to return to his army. Boom. However, just as Mu Chen was about to turn around, an earth-shattering roar suddenly erupted from the sky. It was as if countless warriors were screaming in agony, and the murderous intent within the roar caused the very heavens and earth to darken. The sudden change shocked all the forces present, and they quickly looked up, their gazes fixated on the death ruins shrouded in darkness in the distance. The eerie roar came from there. Roar. The strange, anguished roar echoed from the depths of the dark death ruins, carrying an unimaginable pain. The despair in the voice sent shivers down the spines of countless powerful figures in the area. Moreover, beneath the roar, there was an endless series of howls, seemingly filled with a strange power that caused the entire world to darken further. A suffocating feeling began to spread. Outside the death ruins, countless strong warriors looked uncertainly at the dark distance. Though they hadn't entered the death ruins yet, they could already feel its terrifying presence. Mu Chen's gaze also suddenly froze at that moment. He stared at the death ruins. The peculiar power contained within the roar was not unfamiliar to him, as it was the power of battle will. Indeed, the death ruins had some connection to the battle formation masters. A fiery light surged from Mu Chen's eyes as he intently watched the death ruins. It seemed that the commotion within the ruins had been triggered by the battle will from their previous fight, and it had awakened something within the death ruins. Mu Chen's eyes flickered, then he retreated back into the great Luo Heaven Domain army. He spoke softly. It seems that the death ruins are indeed connected to the battle formation masters. I sense fluctuations of battle will. Nine Nether, the mountain-splitting king, and the others all looked solemn. The death ruins before them always felt strange, and now that it was confirmed to be related to the battle formation masters, there was surely great danger inside. It seemed they would need to be extra cautious during this mission. When do we move? Nine Nether asked in a low voice. Let's wait for now. Mu Chen shook his head lightly. Although it was now certain that the death ruins were connected to the battle formation masters, he had become more composed. In such a perilous situation, those who stand out may not have a good end. Nine Nether and the others understood this well and nodded in agreement. The army then began descending from a mountain at the forefront, keeping a vigilant watch on the death ruins, now shrouded in darkness. As the great Luo Heaven Domain forces descended, the eerie roars from within the death ruins gradually faded, until they completely disappeared. After the death ruins returned to silence, forces from all sides began to stir. The earlier disturbances within the ruins proved its exceptional nature. This ruin was likely a first-grade ruins. If they could enter first, they could harvest large amounts of fallen source pills. The quantity that could be refined from a first-grade ruins was astounding. Moreover, inside the ruins, there were certainly numerous divine artifacts and powerful techniques left behind by ancient experts, items that would make anyone covetous. Mu Chen's eyes narrowed as he focused on the bones. He noticed that all of them were positioned the same way, and even in death, they remained as immovable as stone. This had once been an army, a powerful army that, even in the face of death, did not flinch. And the battle formation master who could command such an army must have been extraordinary. Mu Chen's gaze burned as he looked deeper into the darkness. There had clearly been a battle formation master's fall within the death ruins, and if he could seize that opportunity, perhaps he could become a battle formation master himself. And once he became a true battle formation master, his status in the great Luo Heaven Domain would likely surpass even that of the kings. His heart burned with ambition, and without further hesitation, Mu Chen's figure darted forward, shooting into the darkness. Behind him, the massive army surged forward like a torrent, eventually swallowed by the darkness. As the massive forces of the Divine Hall and the Shantian Palace rushed into the death ruins, a deep, ominous growl echoed from the very core of the ruins. The sound was filled with destruction. Within the depths of the darkness, a faint silhouette of a stone throne seemed to emerge. On the throne sat a figure in black armor, with white hair cascading down and dark energy swirling around him. Waves of destructive energy radiated from his body. The figure slowly raised his head. His deep-set eyes glowed a sinister red, filled with utter annihilation.